Yeah, I don't know exactly what my expectations were going into it. I'm probably like a lot of folks around the country. Feel like learning on the fly in some ways. And I'll say this. I mean, I've learned more in the last year and a half than I did probably in the previous 10 combined, just with the change in landscape. And so there's been a level of excitement to that. I think that has certainly given me some energy as we've progressed through the last 18 months or so. But it's been great. I think to be able to be a part of blessing the efforts and the work that a lot of our guys have put in has been a real positive and a real plus for me, and something I've really enjoyed. And the problem solving aspect of it, and trying to piece the puzzle together and give ourselves the best possible opportunity to put a really competitive roster together year in and year out is one that I've enjoyed, and certainly don't take lightly the responsibility of that. But we've got a great team of people. It's certainly not just me sitting there doing it and trying to work in a silo. Like there's a lot of input and a lot of hands that are working towards the same goal as well. So from that standpoint, it's been a lot of fun.
Jordan, if somebody out there hears the term general manager, they probably think pro. How would you say you could relate your job, your responsibilities to? I know it's different, but similarities to what a professional general manager would do like at the NFL level.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly some crossover and some things that are similar about it. There's also some stark differences, right? Like we don't get to select a roster,
Sure.
we don't draft, we don't necessarily sign in free agency in the same way that a pro team would. But yeah, there's definitely some similarities in terms of the evaluation process of it, and trying to fit the pieces together. And so I think we're all NFL, college, we're all working towards the same mission, right? Of you've got to put a roster together. And ours is probably, especially at Clemson, we probably have a little bit more of a long-term mindset towards it, right? It's not just a year-to-year thing where you're trying to fill holes in free agency and get every piece in place, and you have contracts expiring, those kind of things. We've got some similarities there, but in terms of how we want to do it, it's a retention first model. That's what we want to do. We want to retain and develop the roster. And so everything that we do is kind of goes through that lens, right? Of we want to sign the best class that we can sign every year to fill the holes that we know we have from a departure standpoint. And then ultimately hand it over to the coaches and say, hey, here's who we've got. Here's who you guys wanted that we were able to bring in here. Now let's go develop them and let's go win on the field.
So how much say do the coaches have in the guys that you are looking at and acquiring?
Yeah, a ton. I mean, it's a collaborative effort all the way. But at the end of the day, we still have to recruit, right? We don't just get to select.
Sure.
And so, from my standpoint, I think the coach's involvement is paramount to success, right? It's because you're still talking about 16, 17-year-old kids who are making decisions about the next 4 years of their life, which has a tremendous impact long term on their future. And so the coaches have to be involved in the selection process, the recruiting process, the evaluation process. They've got to be intimately involved in all of that. It's critical, because ultimately their jobs are on the line too, right? And so I don't I'm not in a situation where hey, we're selecting and then telling them who they've got year to year. That's much more of the NFL model, right? But again, with the recruiting piece of it, that's I think the biggest difference between college and the NFL is we're still working in the relationship business in terms of the recruiting.
Rev shares here and now. How much of a game changer is that for you as a program?
I mean, yeah, I think it's been huge for us. It's huge for everybody, right? I mean, it's changed the game, to use your term, in ways that if you'd asked me 10 years ago, 15 years ago when I started in college football, will we ever be there? I'd say, I doubt it, but here we are, and so yeah, it's changed the game tremendously. But we're hopeful that we're going to get some clarity and some more regulation, rules, structure. Those are decisions that are made at a really, really high level, and we'll see how it all plays out here over the next couple of years, because I do think we're going to have to drive the car for a little bit as we figure out the rules of the road, and we're hopeful that things are moving in a positive direction. But yeah, it's changed it tremendously, right? I mean, it's professionalized it in a lot of ways. It's certainly changed perspectives on decision making and those kind of things. But at the end of the day, I think what's important for us is we need to adapt, and I think we have adapted, but we don't need to compromise, right? And so in terms of philosophy and what's most important to us, those things still need to remain the same. And I think that's where we've been unique, and I think we're going to continue to be unique as long as Coach Schwinney is here and our staff is in place. We're still going to value the things that we've always valued at Clemson, but we've got to adapt along with the changes of college athletics. And that's been the fun part for me is, understanding and learning that we can still do it the Clemson way in a new era of college sports.
Do you think that the rev share has leveled the playing field somewhat for Clemson compared to the last couple of years where it's just been, a Wild West?
Yeah, I think we're in the process of that happening. I don't think we're probably not quite there yet, just because, again, I don't think we have all the answers to all the questions, right? I mean, I've got a laundry list of questions that I'd love to have answered just relative to how will this work, what can we do, what can't we do, and have some concrete answers on that we just don't have yet. But I think we're in the process of the playing field being leveled, but we're not there yet. We're hopeful that we'll get there, sooner than later.
With all these changes, what is maybe the one thing that the NCAA or whoever figured out? You go, okay, my job would be a lot easier if this was fixed tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think binding contracts are important, right? Like those are critical. That's a critical piece of the puzzle. That if we could figure that out, that would help. And then a salary cap, like those two things, those would be. That's probably highest on my wish list, that we would have that, right? And it wouldn't be a moving target, and you wouldn't have a lot of different philosophies across the country in terms of like, well, we think that collectives are going to operate this way, and they think collectives are going to operate that way. But for us, again, all to have the same set of rules, everybody have the same understanding of that set of rules, those would be critical pieces. But again, like those are hard questions to answer and hard problems to solve. It's not easy, and there's a lot of legal ramifications of all that. And so, again, I kind of defer to the ADs and the commissioners and all the folks that are involved in that process to answer those questions for us. But like I said, I'm hopeful, and I want to maintain hope that we're gonna get there.
How does that happen in different states and so many different rules? Just it doesn't seem like there's a centralized oversight to it.
That's not a question for me to answer. The how does it happen question, I don't know. That's again, I defer to the powers that be on that. It's a better question for Graham and Coach Schwinney, but yeah, I'm hopeful that it happens at some point.
But that would help make your job a little easier and make the challenges of it a little less.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, I mean, concrete rules and structure would help not just me, it would help everybody across the landscape to be able to, just again know the rules of the game that you're playing. And I think we're getting there, but it's gonna take some time before we all have a great understanding of how it's worked. I mean, we're July 15th. We're 2 weeks into the settlement, so we've certainly still got some runway ahead of us.
And do you have an opinion on this? What is your thought?
I got lots of opinions on a lot of things, but I think at the end of the day, again, my opinions are not necessarily relevant today. I think what we're trying to do is take our philosophy and continue to be true to who we are, and with whatever rules of the day that we have, we go operate within those rules, and then let the powers that be make those decisions.
You talked a lot about retaining this roster. I'm curious if you talk to other GMs around the sport, and if they ask you, like, how are you guys at Clemson doing this every year, where all your best players don't enter the portal, or at least half of them don't?
Yeah.
Like, what do you say, like, this is how we're doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I certainly that's been one of the benefits, I think, of the change and even the rise of the GM role. I think I've had more connectivity with my counterparts and peers across the country over the last few years than certainly I did previously, because I think, again, we're all trying to sort of solve the same problems. And so, yeah, I mean, we share as much as we can share, and I think that's something that's unique about college football in general. I can't speak for other sports, but there is a sharing of ideas across the sport, and that's not just in terms of my role, but that's coaches too, right? Like, coaches get together in clinic, and our coaches go and visit other staffs, and other staffs come here and visit and talk shop. So yeah, we do a lot of that conversationally, because I think, again, we're all experiencing the same issues. We're all kind of going through this together, and we're all learning as we go, because this is by no means a finished product. And so I think that's important for us to be able to share some of those ideas, and that's been a real positive for me. But you share what you can share, And I think people are naturally curious about Clemson because we are different and we do have a philosophy and a conviction in the way that we do things. And quite frankly, it takes some courage to do things the way that we do them. And I'm not naive enough to think that there's been a lot of people that have come before me who have put in a lot of work and blood, sweat, and tears over the years to get us to this point, right? To be able to operate the way that we do is a privilege. It's not a right, and it's earned over time. But Coach Schwinney has, I have a ton of respect, most of all for his conviction, and we're going to do things a certain way. And I think that's a hard thing to do, because I think today's world, especially for coaches, is most administrations and fan bases don't have a lot of patience, right? They want it now, and they want to be able to win now. And so I think we were blessed and lucky in the fact that we went through a lot of the building process before all the chaos hit. And so we've got a really established culture with a lot of great support from both our fan base and our administration that allows us to do things a certain way. And Coach has proven year in and year out that it works doing it the way we do it, and he's going to maintain that conviction, and I love that about him.
You've touched on this a little bit, thing on the podcast appearance, but so rev share's coming, the season ends, the Texas game. How quickly are you delving into roster discussions, retention, all these conversations, signing agreements, dealing with tampering, just that whole process? Take us through end of last season to kind of now with the roster.
Yeah, we certainly spent a ton of time throughout the fall kind of evaluating and determining, okay, how are we going to approach this? 1,000 different valuation models and things that we went through. I mean, we got iteration upon iteration of those models, and ultimately landed up where we felt was a good spot, and then the conversations start, right? And so you've got starting points and places that you want to land on all of that, and things change and evolve as you go through those conversations. And but yeah, we start